Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Podiatry Business Podcast, episode 184. Today's podcast is called Get Your Ducks in a Row Before You Scale Your Podiatry Clinics. So if you're listening to this and you're considering that you're thinking I need some marketing for my business, I'm going to say something that might drive you mad, and that is that you probably don't need paid marketing just yet. You probably need it soon, but it's not the thing you should be doing just right. Because using marketing, and remember, I say this from a position where I own a clinic and I also own a marketing agency for podiatry clinics. Using marketing too early won't fix your business if the fundamentals aren't in place in your business. What it will do is it will magnify what's already there. So if your business is not set up correctly, if it's messy, it will scale up stress. If your business is chaotic or if it's been run on adrenaline, it will magnify that. So what I want to talk about is the stuff that you need to get in place before you try to get that significant scaling, if that's what you're looking for. So this comes from a place where recently I had a clinic owner reach out to me and asked me for some help with their marketing. So this was a UK-based podiatry clinic, and this clinic owner is working quite a lot of hours. And it's the same conversation I hear quite a lot. They're working quite a lot of hours. They're making pretty good money, but they're having to work a lot to do so. They're working a lot of clinical hours and then they're trying to squeeze the business in around it. And they can see the capacity in the area to build a bigger business and have hopefully a better lifestyle, as in they'll make slightly more money or a bit more money, but without having to kill themselves, maybe cut back their hours. And they think that marketing is all that they need. And in this case, I recommended that marketing was not what they should be doing yet. They should not be spending money on paid marketing, except for maybe one thing. They needed to change their website, because the majority of websites that I see are very pretty, but not very effective. So if they were to start spending money on paid marketing at this stage, it would be like pouring water into a bucket that is full of holes. And I think what happens is clinic owners reach out to me and they have this idea that I just need more marketing, I just need more patients. And really what it is it's code for I just need to build this business a little bit bigger so that it can kind of run a little bit without me and I don't have to do as much because I feel completely exhausted from running this business, or that it's just not giving me the return that I hope it would, or lifestyle I hope it would when I started doing this. And certainty won't come from that. Getting the business to where you want it to be won't come from more leads if you haven't got the fundamentals in place. What you have to do instead is you have to know what it is you're trying to build, who is it for, what are you going to charge, what's your pricing strategy, how do you keep the patients coming back that you already have, and what are your numbers telling you. So what I want to do is I want to go through what I call getting your ducks in a row framework. So the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out, well, what kind of business do you want and what do you want your life to look like? Now, this is not what clinic owners often want to start with, because they just want to get on with it straight away. They want to fix it as fast as they can. But if you don't know what your destination is, you won't really know what your business should look like to give you that destination. So it might look really successful on the outside. So people on the outside will say, that guy's got loads of staff and he's making, it looks like he's got quite busy and so on. But really for the clinic owner, it just feels like a trap. So you have to start thinking, well, what do I want my life and my business to look like? For example, how many days per week do I want to work clinically? Do I want to be the main clinician long term, or do I want to build a team that will do the majority of the work and it's not as dependent on me? Think about, what does a perfect week look like for me? What do I want my income to be? And what am I willing to do to get that income? So what poison am I willing to swallow? What do I want my stress levels to be? And there's no judgment on my part. I see clinic owners come along and they're quite happy to have a business that will make them 100,000 a year, and then others will come along and they want to make 1 million a year. And whether you're making 100,000 a year or 1 million a year, your business can be a business that overwhelms you, stresses you out, etc. So it's not necessarily that the smaller business is less stressful if the fundamentals aren't in place. The second part of the framework is you got to choose who is the type of patient that you're looking to attract, who's your ideal patient. And you have to stop trying to attract everyone. Now, when we start off a business and start off a clinic, what we think is, well, I will treat anybody at all that will come in the door, because we're so keen for it. And then, which is perfectly fine, I get that, and I've been in that position. But if you continue running your business like that, you'll find that it is all things to all people except you. So what you'll need to decide is, who do we want to help best? What problems do we want to be known for? And what do we not want to attract? So for me, I don't want to attract the kind of person who doesn't want to pay for my services, is rude, and isn't really compliant with my work. I want to be able to choose the type of patient that comes into me, and it makes everything easier when I can do so. It means that my messaging becomes clearer, my referrals improve, because people know what I do and they go, well, he can do X, Y, Z, I'll send you that type of patient. And my team is really clear on what a good fit looks like for us and what it is we're trying to achieve for those people. So have a think about, what kind of patients do you want your waiting room to be full of? Third step then is pricing. And what you need to do with pricing is you don't just put your prices up. I see a lot of people say, well, all you're going to do is just put your pricing up. It's more fundamental than that. What you need to have is a long-term strategy when it comes to pricing. My pricing went up there, just a small amount there recently in my clinic, but it was the first time I put it up in over 2 years because I didn't need to put it up. So rather than just saying put your price up every single 6 months, and initially you might have to do so if you haven't got a strategy in place, but pricing isn't about what your competitors charge. It's about what strategic decision do you need the pricing to match. So you kind of work backwards from that on, well, what income do I need the business to provide? And then the pricing should reflect that income. So that's got to take into account your costs, your capacity, the level of service that you want to deliver, and the income and the lifestyle that you want for yourself. And you are allowed to do so. You are the business owner, you're taking the risk, and you're allowed to make those decisions and not feel bad about doing so. If your pricing is too low, what will often happen is the clinic owner will try to fix it with volume. They'll try to pack that clinic with patients, and they'll work long hours, squeeze people in because their pricing is too low. And they're afraid to put the price up because they're worried what other people will say, what patients will say, and also what other clinic owners will say to them. And the problem with low price is you have to have higher volume, and higher volume is expensive in your time, in your energy, and burning through your staff. You can't maintain that long term. So fix your pricing. Fourth thing in this framework is you've got to make sure you maximize your retention. So it's much easier to grow if you can retain the people that you already are attracting. And what happens is most clinics will obsess over getting more new patients. So they'll ring me and they'll say, I'm struggling, I'm overworked, I feel like I'm stuck and I'm tied to the business, and all I need is more new patients. Yes, you do need new patients, but it should be kind of at the last thing you do. Because what we want to be focusing on earlier is that we're retaining the patients that we already have. So the fastest path to stable growth is better retention, better reactivation of your database, consistently staying in touch with your database, which does not require paid marketing. It requires you to write an email and send an email every week. It's something interesting to say, and also better follow-up. So what you need to do is really, you need to look at your business and you need to say, well, what percentage of my new patients come back for a second visit? What come back for a third visit? How long and typically do they come back for? How How many of them are entering a plan of care and dropping out of a plan of care? I once did this with my physio team because I just felt something was off, and I had a look and I found that we had an average of 55% of our patients who entered a plan of care with the physio were self-discharging before the patient was better, which was a shock to me and it was a shock to my staff, and we did something about it. We made some changes to fix that. And what happens when that patient drops off? Do you have a follow-up system to reactivate them, to find out, to get them to come back? So focus on retaining the staff or the patients that you have and reactivating your database. And if you want to improve retention, then part of that is knowing your numbers, like I said. So knowing your numbers allows you to make decisions based off of the numbers. If a patient comes into you with a biomechanical problem, plantar fasciitis, first MTPJ pain, you're going to take some measurements, and those measurements are going to help you make a decision on what you do. So you need to have some numbers for your business just as well, so you can make a diagnosis. Now, it doesn't need to be a complicated dashboard. It doesn't need to be automated. It doesn't need to be anything like that. It can be something very simple, but as long as you're measuring, you can start to make decisions based off that. So a few core numbers I would suggest that you can is number of inquiries per week, as in how often does your phone actually ring, people looking. In booking rate, what's the percentage of that actually is booked into the appointment. Simpler again is out of 100 phone calls, how many do I actually answer? And that's actually quite an eye opener. I have the privilege as owning a marketing agency, being able to make people's phone ring with Google Ads and so on. What we've seen, we're able to measure is how often do they actually answer the phone. And we have seen some clinics where their booking or their answer rate rather is less than 50%. So you make the phone ring 100 times and the receptionist only answers it 45 times. So we got to fix that. Doing more marketing is not going to fix that. What's the show up rate? What's your cancellation rate? What's your DNA rate? What's your conversion of initial appointment into a plan of care where relevant, where appropriate? What's your average revenue per new patient? So if you know how much a new patient is going to generate, what's the value of that patient, then you're able to kind of go, well, this is how much effort or money I'm willing to spend to get that new patient. What's your profit margins? And it doesn't need to be 100% accurate, but you should be doing a rough P&L every single month to see where your business is. What's your capacity? Are you full? Are you too full? Are you not enough full? But essentially the key here is that numbers are not just for reporting. They're for making choices and making decisions. So if you know the numbers, you need to be able to make the hard decisions and have those difficult conversations. Just this week, I spoke to a client who is having problems with staff, admin staff and clinical staff, and has been putting off having those hard conversations. And as a result, the business is not doing what it wants. In one case, the receptionist didn't want to answer the phone. What I explained to the clinic owner was, it is your job as the owner of the business to make these hard decisions and to have these difficult conversations. But you should have a business that recompenses you financially well for having to do those things. And if you're not making the hard decisions, you're not going to have a business that does so. But the numbers, you need the numbers to know what decisions to make. So if your booking rate, for example, is low, you need to find out what's going on. You need to come up with a solution, because more marketing is not the solution. Maybe your front desk need a better script. Maybe you need to do more training with them. Maybe you need to have a better follow-up with when you get a lead. If your show-up rate is low, if you have a high no-show rate, then maybe your reminders aren't right. Maybe something's wrong there. You need to figure out what's wrong and how can you fix it. If your average revenue or lifetime revenue per patient is low, then your pricing could be low. Maybe your retention or your rebooking rates are low. And these, again, are all things that marketing is not going to fix. The next thing, and the last thing I would have in the ducks in a row framework, is that you work on your business, that you put time aside to work on your business. Most clinic owners skip this. They skip it because they sit down in front of a desk and they're not sure what to do or where to start. So they look at their emails, they look at the Facebook posts, and what they find is an hour later, 2 hours later, they really haven't achieved anything, and they have to go back to work. And that's not going to move your business if you're not able to sit down and work on your business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a full day or a half a day. It could even be an hour and 90 minutes per week. That's plenty. But what you should be doing is you should be reviewing numbers. And you should be making decisions based off those numbers and fixing bottlenecks. You should be trying to improve the systems that are not giving you the outcomes or the numbers that you want. You should be spending time training your staff on how to answer that phone, what to say to answer that phone, how to get that patient to say yes to the plan of care that you recommended, and so on and so forth. And you've got to diarise it, you've got to schedule it, because if it's not in your diary, if it's not scheduled, it won't happen, because something else will come along, because running a business always has something important that has to happen that is not vital to your business. So how do you decide when you want to scale your business? Well, once you've got your ducks in a row, then you decide whether you need to scale or not. And scaling isn't just about doing more marketing, getting more patients. It's about scaling when your numbers say a few things. So firstly, you need to make sure it suits your lifestyle to scale. Now that might surprise you for me saying that, but not every person, every clinic should have a big business. It's not suitable for everybody. I haven't really grown my own personal clinic in about 3 years because it didn't really suit my plan or my lifestyle. Now that's changing soon, but it didn't suit me. So you got to see, well, does it work for me and for my lifestyle? Can the model I'm currently using scale without it killing me? And that's important. Do I have sufficient capacity in terms of billable hours and patient volume? So you need sufficient staff and you need sufficient patients. And you need to look at both, and you need to fix wherever you're missing. And from that then you are able to start to scale your business. So you're confirming demand, you're making sure that the work is there if you do start to take on. You're confirming capacity, and you're fixing capacity by perhaps taking on staff or making it more efficient or more productive. And then you're looking at your ability to acquire new patients. Do I have my systems in place to fill that diary, and do I have the staff to work that diary? So what we're trying to do essentially is we're getting our ducks in a row, and then we're looking at what lever we need to pull, because it isn't always about getting more new patients in the door. And I've talked about this before, the 5 levers, the 5-time multiplier. I've talked about that before, but they are essentially number of leads, conversion of leads into patients and patients into recurring patients, my pricing, my rebooking, and my margins. Don't think that you should necessarily start with leads. Just this week, I had a client come to me and say, I need more leads, I need more patients. And that's actually not what they need. They need to get the receptionist to answer the phone before they start making it ring more, because the receptionist didn't want to answer the phone. So look at all of the levers that you have to pull in your business and make a decision on pulling the correct lever for where you are right now. So if you're in your business, you're in your podiatry clinic, and you're thinking, I need more marketing, I just need more patients because I'm not happy and this business is not doing what I want, stop and take a breath and look and see, do you have all of your ducks in a row? Decide what you want your business to be like. Choose the type of patients that you'd like to have. Make sure you're pricing properly. Do you have a pricing strategy? Not just that, well, I'll put my price up now. That's not what I mean. A long-term pricing strategy. Where do you want to be in the pricing framework compared to your competitors? Start maximizing your retention. How can I automate that? Start to know your numbers. How can I figure out systems that I can know my numbers in real time for what's going on in my business without it overwhelming me? And put time aside to start working on the business so you can do all of these things. And then when you're ready and when you've got these numbers in place, then you can start to scale if that's the right thing for you to do with confidence. And remember, some of our clients, we don't actually turn on any marketing for maybe 9 months, 12 months, yet they're still doubling their business. So if you want help figuring this out,
you're listening to this podcast and you think, well, look, this I could do with some help with this, we're happy to help. This is what we do here at More Practice Profits. If you want to have a chat with us, simply go to morepracticeprofits.com and book a 10-minute triage call. We'll have a quick chat on the phone for 10 minutes to see if we can help, if we think we're a good fit, and we'll help you map the fastest way to stability and growth in your business. You're welcome to listen to these other episodes of this podcast, or you can take a copy of my book for free off the website, Podiatry Business Success Secrets, and it goes through a lot of these theory I've talked about here and practical application of how to do it. So until next time, I hope you build a profitable podiatry clinic that gives you the lifestyle that you want.